Hey, I will show you how I did to paint this Xbox controller with the Fortnite theme. I hope you like this video. To hold that stencil in place, I will be using magnets, but since the controller is plastic, uh, I thought about putting some magnets in the back of the controller and holding it with some tape. And this will create some points that I can place other magnets on top to hold the stencil in place. I decided to put multiple ones because if I need to move the stencil around, then I have different options where to hold it from. Really simple idea, but very useful. So now it's time to test it, and it works. Really simple, really efficient. Alright, so this is something I want to show you. Whenever I have a brand new stencil, I like to test it and spray out the areas that are the most important. This will allow me to, once the paint is on the stencil, will allow me to see where the main parts of the stencil are. In this case, the faces and the characters, and it will just make it a lot easier to position them. So to continue, I place the stencil and start spraying on it. And I will show you in real time at the speed that I spray. Because sometimes when it's so fast, it might appear as if I'm blazing fast, but in reality, I'm working really slow. Here you can see using opaque black, I'm spraying the character first. Once the character is sprayed, I move into areas that are less important, and there you can see how focused and how slow I'm spraying. And at the same time, also pay attention that I'm really close to the stencil. You don't want to go really high up and try to spray the entire stencil all at once, because you're gonna end up with really weak results. But now you can have an idea of sort of what really happens when you're spraying this. It took me probably about 20 minutes to spray the stencil, and I'm moving area by area because the controller has a lot of curves. So I try to find areas where are flat and focus on those areas rather than going through the entire stencil all at once. And I do that trying to avoid the stencil from moving around, because if it moves, it's really easy to get double lines, and when you have double lines, you end up with blurry edges and blurry faces, and it really looks bad. So there you can see, because in the beginning I sprayed where the characters are, I'm able to easily find them in the stencil, and I'm only spraying the characters first, and then I do the backgrounds. That allows me to have the most important parts of the painting first, and things like backgrounds and other things like that are less important. So a little bit of blurriness in that, I wouldn't mind it. But of course, try to keep the stencil stable so that you get the best results. And this is a size 2 custom stencil, for those who are wondering how big that is. Size 2 is 5 inches on the shorter side, and the other side really depends on how big the picture is. For example, some pictures can be, the 5 would always be constant, so the other side can be 6 or 7. It can even be 5 if it is a square picture. So that will give you an idea of what you need to order whenever you have a project. So from here onwards, we're gonna go a little faster, just so that you don't get bored of watching how slow this process is. But this is the picture I'm using, and this picture I'll be referring to match the colors. A really simple color palette, but it helps to have the picture so you can see and you can know what you're working with rather than trying to guess everything. When you guess the colors, it shows. So if you're not creating something new and completely original, then it helps to look at some pictures for color references. Now, although it's going really fast, I'm basically doing exactly the same thing. Just spraying slowly each character, always looking for flat surfaces, trying to keep the stencil even. And I'm making a pause here to show you the results that I'm getting. As you can see, it looks a little bit light. It has to do with the lighting, but also it has to do with the painting itself. It will not reach full black, but that's not a problem because I'll be adding more color on top later on. And just to get this out quick, just to finish the stencil, here again, super fast speed, and basically just finishing off the entire design. So once I'm done with the stencil, these are the results I get, and that is a pretty solid black and white structure of the painting. So from here, I'll be mixing some transparent colors and adding the color to it. I've seen some other people that are using HD stencils. They like to leave it at this stage, and of course, you are in control of your project. You do as you like. But on this one, the customer wanted it full color, so it had to be that way. All right, now moving into the color part, and what is important to say here is that I'm using transparent colors. Still, I'm using the illustration colors from createx, and I'm giving you a small part here when what I'm doing in real time. And all I did was I mixed a pale orange color for all the skin areas, and I'm slowly painting those areas using a custom micron. And I'll do the same to all the characters now with a little bit more speed. So I'm looking for all the hands, the hips on this girl, everything, the faces, everything that is skin color, and I'm painting that. And rather than masking things, I'm just spraying slower and careful not to bleed through other areas that this color doesn't belong to. So this is a very simple color application. I'm going straight on the details, everything, and because I'm using transparent colors, I'm not burying things underneath the color. It rather adds color to the painting, and also it darkens the rest of the colors. The next step for me was to do the blue background, and for that I'm using a very reduced color that I mixed. This is a red blue. Only using red and blue I created this color, mostly blue, but the rest of the picture will be sort of a violet color. But I start with the blue because there's a mix of blue and violet, and I'm applying this very lightly to the entire background. I'm going really light and I'm doing multiple coats because I'd rather build this color slowly rather than put it too heavy and then it doesn't look right. At this point, it's much easier to add paint than to remove any color from it. So this color I reduced it with obviously with reducer, but also with transparent base to weaken it down and to make it more forgiving. And I'm constantly looking at the photo that I have on my phone to make sure where there are those spots of blue. So I'm also looking to where it's dark, and in the darker areas I'm spraying a lot more blue. Like I said, transparent colors darken. They not only become more saturated, but they also darken themselves or other colors that are underneath. So I'm spraying around those circles, making sure I get all those edges. I don't want to have any white spots showing through. But there is a lot of blue, mostly on the bottom part of this picture. The reason why I started with blue is because blue is a primary color as opposed to violet, which is a secondary color. So if I start with blue, I can come back with some red and get nice violets. But if I start with violet, it will be nearly impossible to go back to blue. And the reason is because primaries, you cannot mix primary colors. You can only mix secondary colors. So that is the logic behind starting with this color. And of course, I could have started with the right colors in each place, like mix them separately and then paint them. But then that would have taken too much work. So I'm looking at the picture and making sure that what I'm spraying is not too blue, is not too saturated. And whatever it needs to be saturated, then I'm being careful to add more color to it. I'm also adding color to the characters, to the Fortnite characters. And of course, I'm looking at the picture to know how much color I'm adding. But as you can see, there's also black in the characters. So I'm not adding the equal amounts of blue, because the black also adds to the darkness. So now I'm using the violet color, and this is like a red violet, and I'm just testing some areas to see if it's giving me the color that I'm looking for. And that's pretty much what you should also do in your paintings. Whenever you mix right on top of the surface, you check. And for me, the color was working good, so I went with it. And as you can see, I'm adding a lot of color to the characters, a lot of violet. It looks like their clothing is reflecting a lot of that light. And I'm also painting the edges where the buttons go. But this color is gonna show up mostly where I left white spots. And wherever there's a lot of blue, it will change that blue into violet, into a deep violet. So it's affecting the value as well as the chroma, as well as the hue. So it's not that difficult, only 2 colors. And then to paint the lightning, I mixed it's basically a skin color using white. This one is a opaque color, so I'm covering on top of whatever I'm painting. And that's just to make the lightning that goes across behind the stop sign, and do a little halo around it so it gives the illusion that it's lightening up. And then now that I come back and spray a stronger orange on top, it gives the illusion that it's glowing. So to finish things up, I got a mixture of opaque black with a lot of blue. It's a really dark blue. And on the handle sides, I'm going solid color with that mixture. And around the controller, I'm also doing a vignette, just so that those pieces match the same color and there's not a big difference in color. And also I'm touching up the edges. It's important that they don't show up, that they become dark, so they don't show in the final painting. So these are the results I got. This is before clear coat. In a painting, there's always more that you can do, and the more you look at it, the more you want to touch up things. But I decided this was a good place. This was a good. The painting was at a good stage, so it was ready to clear coat it. And I'll show you the clear coat I used. Clear coat only enhances everything else, shows all the details better. So the Tamco HC 9500, it's what I decided to use on this controller. I really like this clear because first of all, it's very affordable, and the other thing is it dries really fast. This clear dries in 30 minutes at a temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And for beginners especially, I want to tell you, whenever you paint something, be sure you use some good clear. I would recommend it to stay away from those rattle can clears unless it's a 2K clear. But for the most part, the rattle cans, they will just ruin your work. So it's all done now. 3 coats of clear. It's already been delivered to the customer, and it was kind of a simple project, but at the same time, it's kind of fun to see how a stock controller looks so good after being painted. It completely looks custom. It looks unique. And I hope you like this video. I hope you like the results. And probably it even opened up your mind to new possibilities. So thank you for watching.